Hello again. The last time we visited, we were talking about training horses and riders through a series of jumps. And I had mentioned that I had gone to Kalispell, Montana to teach a clinic and had used that in the clinic. But I wanted to tell you a little bit about that experience because it has some important factors about a number of things about horses, and that horses have a great memory. And I have a couple of illustrations to remind you. In the clinic that I was giving, it was a jumping clinic. There was a young man riding a black thoroughbred, nice horse, well put together. He could jump well, but he had a problem in that he wanted to rush all of his fences. He was in too big of a hurry to do everything. And the clinic that I was giving was on the infield of a racetrack. And this horse had been on the racetrack. I don't know whether it was that track or not, but it doesn't matter because racehorses, they know what a track is. And when they get there, they know they're going to run. And some of them really like to run. Well, this young man that was riding him, we had schooled through some things. And like I said, the horse was too eager down to a fence, going to, not listening to the rider from the standpoint is he was just too bold. And the young man told me, we were finishing the clinic, and he said, I've been riding him for 2.5 years over, at shows, and says, I've never won a blue ribbon. And he gave me some of the history of the horse, that he had been a racehorse. And I told him, he's a nice horse. He jumps well. The problem is he's too eager. He's not relaxed enough. And I said, if you really want him to do well, I said, before the horse show tomorrow, I said, if you will get out here at 4 a.m. and you get out on the racetrack, and I said, don't run, but I said, don't try to hamper him either. Let him gallop. And when he has galloped all of it out, and he's relaxed. And I said, it may take you 3 hours. I said, you just sit there and do nothing. And I said, then I said, when he gets to the point that he's not trying to go faster, he's wanting to go slower, then take him and give him a bath and put him away for a little while and then ride him in the show. We got to the show the next morning, and the young man won 4 classes that day. First blue ribbons he's ever had. And he told me, he said, I did just as you said. He says, we galloped for almost 3 hours. And he said, he finally quit galloping. And I told him, I said, now make sure you take care of those legs. Get them, keep them cool. We don't want to damage him. But we had to get the horse's mind over the fact that he could run anytime you get on him. And that's an important factor because that horse had memories of running on that racetrack. At home, he had been doing pretty well. But when he is on the infield of the racetrack and the racetrack is there, he remembered that was a place to run. Give you another illustration. The horse that we've talked about some, Smokey, Camary and I had taken a job opportunity out in California to build a stable in Bakersfield, California. And we had taken Smokey and some other horses with us. And Smokey didn't like it in California. He didn't like the Bakersfield thing. He performed all right, but they do have preferences. We were coming back to Grand Junction where Smokey had spent most of his time with us, and when we turned off of the freeway off of I-70 in Grand Junction, it was on 24 Road, and we lived about 1.5 miles from the turnoff. Now, Smokey had never acted up in a trailer at all. He had never said anything. He didn't nicker or anything. We turned off of the freeway, and we're 1.5 miles from home, and he had not been there in over a year. And he started to paw and nicker. And he did that all the way to where we pulled down in our place there in Grand Junction. and we had a nice arena there, and I just stepped him out of the trailer and pulled a halter off of him and turned him loose in the arena, and he galloped around the arena, and then he lay down and rolled and rolled and rolled and came up and came over to me then as just to say thank you for bringing me home. It's interesting that horses have that. I've on Smokey, you remember I had talked about breaking him to use a rope by tying on to a 1,000-pound bull and just letting the two of them work out the rope. 20 years later, I was working some cattle and I had a cow that needed doctoring, and I was on Smokey, and so I roped the cow, not knowing what he'd do. I didn't have a neck rope on him to keep him straight with a rope. I just roped the cow and got him stopped, and I stepped off. And he stood out there holding that rope tight. Even with the cow moving around, he stayed facing the cow and holding it tight while I worked on the cow. He had learned that lesson almost 20 years before that, and had not used it. I had roped very little off of him the last 15 years that we had him. I was doing jumping. In fact, the last, probably 18 years, he had not had a rope thrown off of him to rope a cow. And so they have a great memory. And now that doesn't say that they remember every bit of training you give them for their entire life, but they're pretty good. And so that's the other thing that I wanted you to know, that when you train a horse or train a person, the memory is what you're training, the mind, and it can stay around for a long time if you learn the lesson well. So hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll talk again.